right, we're back with Vonahi. I got it this time. Ty, Alton, and Trammy heading out in the background there. We'll see if we can trick her into talking again. And we're going to talk this time about, so we have this pen testing tool that is automated, right? And how does that result in higher profit margins for our MSPs? Because we're already packed for time. Adding one more thing onto the stack, one more offering, we know is going to generate revenue, but at the same time, we don't have time to implement it. So we ended up last podcast talking a little bit about implementation windows. Let's kind of dive into that. I'm an MSP. I'm maybe a 10-man shop or a 5-man shop. I'm smaller. I don't have a dedicated security team. Are you a fit for me to generate more revenue on new offering?
Absolutely. Well, who doesn't like profit, right? And right now, most MSPs, like I said, yeah, profit's great.
Profit.
Yeah, why do I want to make money?
Margins. That's for the BAs. I'm an engineer.
I do cool tech stuff. Well, you get more profit, you can buy more cool tech stuff.
Yeah.
Most
I did just buy a Tesla I'm super proud of. So,
that's incredible. Alton actually just went full Tesla.
Yeah.
that was my claim to success. I think that, and the fact that I carpool 4 kids, and I'm saving money buying a Tesla. I think
I would think so. TCO. I mean, no more crazy fuel and all these crazy repairs you have to do.
And it's fun. And it's fun.
Oh, I bet.
But
Instant work is nice.
How does this weird automated tool you guys have, right? It fits in how does it fit into my tech stack for a busy team? I have 0 time.
No.
How are you going to generate me revenue?
Yeah, no, great question, right? So there's a couple of ways we've seen our partners do this. Some of them use it as a prospecting tool, right? So they're reaching out to clients and they're saying, hey, listen, I can do what others probably can't do for you. And I'm going to tell you right now, if your existing tech stack is secure, just let me do this for you. And then that way they kind of use that as a way in, right? So we can do that both externally and internally, right? Just whatever makes sense there. So that's one way a lot of MSPs have been using.
Doing a gap analysis as a lead gen.
Yep, pretty much. Exactly. Because they're showing some value that, hey, listen, whoever is doing it currently might be falling short. And we have this advanced security stack, including pen testing, that's really going to keep your business uptime where you want it to be. Because really, that's really what I think most MSPs are really selling, right? I am selling you business uptime. Because if you're going down, you're losing potentially tons of money. And really, most business owners should know that. They should know, how much money is this going to cost me if I go down? And then now that you've determined that number, are you happy with it? And if you're not, the pen test is exactly what will tell you how someone's going to do that to you. So on that front, whenever MSPs onboard a client, right? Again, client signing a piece of paper saying, hey, I trust you, I love you, do right by me, keep my business running. And then, of course, poof, they deploy all their tools, right? You're safe. Are they, though? Are they? Because, again, a vuln scan is great and telling you.
Behind the curtain.
Yeah, a vuln scan is awesome at telling you things that is already known. But what we see a lot, and this happens a lot, with IoT, with all these devices being plugged in, you never know when somebody might just plug in something on the network and they forgot about it, or even an admin, right? They plug in, they deployed a boatload of servers, and they're like, oh, I just wanted to test this, forgot about it, hasn't been patched in years. VulnScan won't necessarily tell you that, right? But the pen test will crawl that network, and suddenly you're like, oh my God, I found all this stuff, and it's poking all these holes, and now that's allowing this pen test to basically traverse the network. And then now you really get a good grasp on what would happen if someone got in. So there's a lot of value in that alone.
Yeah, I have a saying I do. It's not so much that we're providing uptime, is we're augmenting businesses. And that's what IT is for. And part of that, with a pen test, for instance, a pen test, here's a real world example from a ticket I resolved probably 10 years ago. A server went down, or I should say, no one knew it was a server. They all knew that there was a box and they clicked on this icon on their desktop, and that's where they managed their financial portfolio for the company for all investments. And it turns out this was a DB4 database that was residing on a compact server that somebody had forgotten in the server closet. And it went down because the array finally failed.
Oh, wow.
And the desktop admin came to me and goes, hey, I can't figure out why this application won't work. I'm like, I'm the tier 3 escalation. Like, I'm the buck stops here guy. And I'm like, doing it. I'm doing like, oh, crap. And then I'm doing a trace. I call the network guy. I'm like, hey, can you do a trace on this port and figure out what's going on? And also I'm like, we literally were with a flashlight walking into this closet, like shining it around. And we found one of those old compact servers that was like this tall. And this thing was in control of like $200 million of investments.
Oh, wow.
And no one knew. We didn't have any of our inventory. No one put it under warranty. It just was an icon people clicked on. They all assumed it was a application on the desktop.
That's crazy.
And we didn't realize we weren't sweeping that subnet, and we'd never done a discovery. And had we done a pen test for that area, we would have discovered this thing. We would have been required to go down this rabbit hole and figure it out as engineers. And that would have saved the company a bunch of money because they were down for like a week and a half while we tried to figure out what this mystery thing was. Eventually we dove into the files. And we figured out that there was an actual IP there. Once we got the IP, then we talked to our network guys, and it was on older switches. So we had a harder time tracing the packets. The packets weren't flowing anyways because the server was down. And so we had to go look it was a mess. And we finally found it. And one of the old guys, was walking around with this king going, I remember that server. It was that old. It was that old. And that's where a pen test would have saved a company money, like discovering a critical asset that no one knew existed. And so when I talk about like, MSPs and how they make money, always comes down to how are you augmenting the business services? Uptime is one feature, but also as a pen test, maybe no one knew that, hey, I could flood this port and take down your entire dynamics in 20 seconds. And that would destroy your ability to manage your fleet with all of your trucks for days. How do you mitigate that? Well, engineer comes in and says, oh, well, here's how they exploited it. Here's what they did. And here's how they took down your entire fleet in 20 seconds. All we have to do is blah. It's going to cost about $15,000, but we can have this done in a week. But now you know.
Yeah, just to touch too a little bit on the time factor, because there are a lot of tools out there, a lot of maintenance required, and I think that's one of the things that we want to make sure that our product doesn't get in the way of. Like kind of like he mentioned before, right? The deployment time is like super easy, 30 minutes, and you could basically set it and forget it, right? Like if you want to do a quarterly pen test or a yearly pen test, you don't have to do anything each time that pen test needs to run, right? You just basically deploy that VM, and that's it. You just set up the schedule and you just wait for the results and get notified through email whenever there's something critical. So you could basically go back to everything else you were doing, just invest that 30 minutes or an hour for that client, and you're all set. So I think we definitely accomplished the pen test process in a much shorter time without having to like interrupt the whole 2-month deployment and all of that stuff. So we definitely want to make sure it's simple.
Yeah, from my standpoint, I look at this. We do QBRs largely, is what we do as a business, is being able to have that automation going on, and then knowing I can go over here and say, oh, here's my repository of vulnerabilities that we've been tracking over the past 3 months. And I'm going to distill these down to the top 10 I think the client needs to worry about. And I bring that to my QBR and say, here, under the risk pillar, we care about these 10 things. So maybe it's not a client who cares about compliance. They don't have to worry about NIST compliance. They don't have to worry about CMMC or PCI. They're a key person for a pen test because there you can say, hey, I know you don't want to be compliant, but here's the top 10 exploits on your network. Here are the things that are going to take you down. Here are the things that are going to cost you money. And here's the likelihood of them happening. This one over here would have to require a dedicated actor. This one over here, if you have a rogue IP or a rogue scanner in your network, it's going to take down this server because it's that sensitive. And so, you can tell the client, hey, you care about this thing. You care about your UDP streams coming from your cameras. they would all get shut down if you get a faulty NIC on the network. Let's upgrade your switches to stop those storms. It's a simple fix. And so you can have them do a risk and remediation budget. And so you can charge your client, say, hey, look, for $1,500 a month, we will take care of these 10 vulnerabilities or these 10 exploits over the next year. You will offload the risk to us. So I'm telling you, MSPs out there, like if you have a list of 10 vulnerabilities that you understand, 10 exploits that you understand, you can now sell that extra security package because your client doesn't understand security, but they understand risk. We translate security, cybersecurity, and exploits into business risk. That's when you sell business mitigation, and you can transfer the risk onto a cybersecurity insurance if you offer that as an MSP. You can transfer it and say, hey, we're going to mitigate these. It's going to take time, and we're going to have somebody watching this, so it's going to cost this much. And you don't have to have a SOC. You can hire a SOC. That's not what you're doing here. What you're doing is you're discovering what's important to your clients, and these pen tests will show you, and they're not that expensive. We're not looking at a 20, like for back in my day to do a pen test, it was a week and $20,000.
Yeah.
Goodbye to that money. That was my experience with pen tests.
Yep.
So now we got people thinking, yes, I know I need to do pen tests. I know I can sell these to my clients. I don't have $20,000. It would take me 10 years to get that money back. So what are we looking at for ROI here, guys?
Well, so the crazy thing is the way we're priced, we're basically priced by the amount of IPs expected in that network. But it's about 30% of the cost of a traditional pen test, because really, and the beauty here is like you just said, right? It used to be 20 grand for one pen test, and then they were out. They're like, hey, here's all your problems, I'm out. And then you're like, great, I have to wait next year or 10 years from now to do it again to figure out if I even covered the things that were found the first time. But what we're hoping to change is that people do continuous pen testing, and really continuous, but more likely like monthly pen testing, because the first one, you're going to find all kinds of crazy stuff, right? You remediate, then you should do another pen test to see if you actually remediated those findings.
Yes.
And that's what we're hoping for. We created this platform, priced it right so that people can do frequent pen tests.
Yeah. And that's just for people listening, like to compare. Back in about 2015 was the last time I bought a Rapid7 appliance. And I want to say I dumped $67,000 or so on the first year alone. And then it was another $40,000 for 2 more years of licensing.
Yeah.
And that was for an appliance that was at the time, very simple, gave me nice, easy reports. And we would run those things weekly. Like we were running different, every report got updated weekly across all of our networks. So it was doing network every night. And that was because we as a corporation needed to know, and we needed to check our work and make sure it was working because it was important. However, as a client of an MSP, these are small clients. They've probably never had a pen test done before. And so for them to see it on a monthly basis, this is an add-on. At least they get to go to bed at night. Cybersecurity has gotten crazy the last couple of years.
Yep.
And that's not just your compliance checklist. That's your actual attackers. People are bored. People are hacktivists. People are out there trying to ruin your day just because they can. Or they're trying to hold your ransom so you give them $10,000. These are things that people are trying to do. And a pen test versus a compliance test will actually say, here you go, you're safe now. Or you're safer than you were. Here's where you need to transfer some risk, but your business analyst can handle that. And that's what I love about what you guys are offering, is that it's easy and it's affordable. It's not $120,000. You're looking at, maybe a couple $100 for a small client, but then you're charging them $1,500 for your work.
Exactly.
So if I were to take your solution, I would be looking at the sunk cost, 100 IPs, and I would say, okay, to digest that and to do the remediations is probably we're going to dedicate 10 hours a month towards remediations. And so billable time times 10 and for an hour, and then put that together as a package. Now you have a nice package. Say, hey, you know what? For $1,500 a month, we're going to dedicate 10 hours towards exploit remediation. So as an MSP, that's it. You can offer anybody exploit remediation. And I loved what Kai said earlier. Use this to show that the incumbent is crappy at their job, because they are. And I know this for a fact, people, because our software audits MSPs and their stacks. And I can tell you that people like, when they first came out with our numbers, we have an ITCQ number that says, how do you compare against other MSPs or other companies in the world? They're all scoring 50% or lower on tech stacks.
Oh, yikes.
It's because they're now auditing people coming in from other MSPs where they've learned their lesson. And it wasn't until a server failed or they got owned or something that they switched to MSPs. And they're coming into this MSP that actually does a good job, which is everybody listening to this podcast. I know for a fact you guys are really good at what you do. And you know there's a lot of crappy MSPs out there, and the client doesn't know they're crappy. Between the ITCQ and a pen test, they will switch to you. Because now you're showing business need. You're saying, look, what you have is not good enough. What you have is going to cause you problems. It's like that person, that mechanic, they look at your car and go, yeah, if you don't sell this car right now, you're going to drop that transmission and it's going to cost you $3,000. So I trade today. I'm happy to do the work for you once it goes bad, or you can switch today, save yourself the angst and the heartburn, and do it right. And so that, for me, that's profit analysis with vulnerability, or with pen testing, not vulnerability analysis. Vulnerability analysis is a bunch of red flags. Pen testing says this is what's going to happen.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. A lot of, like, like I said earlier too, like a lot of times you see vulnerabilities, there's just so many of them, right? And a lot of times the severity ratings don't really paint the full picture either. I mean, some of them may say critical, but the reality is the pen testers don't really care about that, because there are some low and informational ones that matter more, right? So yeah, to your point, I mean, it really paints the picture on what will happen if you don't take care of that issue. So
yeah, we used to play a game at one of the corporations I had. It's like, how fast can you take down the network? And the real goal behind it was for the engineers in all their respective areas, and this is hundreds of engineers, like to think, well, pair of 10 snips in the data center. You mean
that'll do it. Yeah.
How long can you take down the network, and how long will it stay down? And there were lots of really interesting ideas on how to take things down, from corrupting the Nexus core to me, it was a pair of 10 snips and the data center. It would take you forever to rerun that wire.
It really would. And I would be shocked because most network environments, like you said, like, those ports aren't always necessarily beautifully labeled or anything. So it would take a tremendous amount of time. Yeah.
You knew exactly what to cut in my network.
Go for that one right there.
Yeah, you see that red line?
Yeah.
Just go for the reds. I was a structured cabling Nazi. I was all about like proper cabling. So if somebody knew what they were doing and had a pair of 10 snips, I was doomed. Luckily, the physical security on our network was awesome.
Solid. Yeah.
It was solid. It was biometric man trap with keycard access.
Oh wow. Yeah.
So to get in, you had to jump through several hoops, but then things got bad. So, what are the last follow-up items you want to have regarding, like, why should somebody do automated pen testing? What's the number one takeaway you want people to know about doing automated pen testing?
Well, so I think we're at the point with technology and with networks and with business in general that it's no longer a question of if, it's a question of when. And now with something like automated pen test, you control the when. Like literally you control it. And we also create, I mean, this is kind of a little bit of a sales thing I'm going to mention real quick, but the platform is white label capable. So if you wanted, if an MSP wanted to appear that it came from them, they can do that. But obviously that might not always be a great thing, right? They might want to say, hey, listen, I partnered with a third party to audit my own work.
If things go wrong, I can say, oh, wrong.
Yeah, because the client might be like, well, I'm paying you to defend it. You're just going to cook up the report here.
Is there a scapegoat clause I can get with Vonahi? We will take the fall if this does not work.
But yeah, so ultimately you can control that, you know, that exploit, and you can see what's going to happen before it actually happens in a malicious way.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, and it really just paints that full picture. I mean, I think we've all, kind of to your point earlier, cybersecurity has been pretty crazy these last couple of years. It's just so much, so much is happening. People are not being covered by cyber insurance. Insurance is a whole different situation, but there's many different like reasons to see, what would happen on the environment, because we've seen a lot of clients and partners doing vulnerability assessments all the time, and you jump in and do a pen test, and it's a whole different picture, and it speaks differently when you hold up sensitive data right here rather than a CVE number, right? So just being able to see that sensitive data and just understand like how easy it was to get there would be pretty mind blowing. So, and then a lot of MSPs too. We work with a lot of MSPs that do the pen test engagements on their own network, and that opens up a lot of different questions and understanding about how things are deployed with their clients and stuff like that. So there's a lot of different advantages to doing it, and it just hasn't been accessible. You know what I mean? To this price point, this ease of use, and turnaround time and stuff like that. So it's I think now and it's going to be a really good time to get started with that.
Yeah, I think that's what really turned me on to you guys. I know we're all in the Pitch It program together, so I'm praying for your failure. But it's been great getting to know you guys through the Pitch It program, and it was just it sparked my interest when I started hearing you guys' pitch of we can do pen testing easily for an engineer. I'm like, holy crap, that's awesome. Because I came from that world and how much time I spent on it and what I would charge if I were to do a CISO offering. And now I'm like, well, crap, I'm glad I didn't go for a CISO offering, because if this is the future, I would be put out of business really quickly, because any MSP could offer CISO services overnight. And it's not that they don't know what they're doing. It's just that you guys do know what you're doing. You know it so well that you've made it easy. And that's that's another saying we have in our group, is that I would have written a shorter letter, but I didn't have the time. That doing things simply requires an expert on the other end, and you guys are the experts. You guys are designing this out so that an engineer can take it and have an impact with their client that they could not before. That they can show value to the client that they could not before, not without a ton of training and a ton of dollars pushed into workshops and tools and stuff. Now it's buy the tool, partner with Vonahi, and make money. That's it. It's simple. And now you have an extra offering that does not require much extra time. Maybe in the QBR you dedicate an extra 10 minutes now that you have a risk pillar that you can go after. So normally in a QBR, we're talking about compliance. Now you're talking about pen testing for clients that don't care about compliance. You're talking about actual results and how to take care of them and take care of their business. And everybody's going to love that. The business is going to want it, because now you're helping protect them in a very real way. You can show them their vulnerabilities going down. You can show them the exploits going down. You can show that they're more secure. And you get to make more money, because now your engineers are working more billable hours to do remediations that matter. And your client gets to be secure and go to bed at night knowing that actual vulnerabilities, actual exploits are being taken care of. And that is how you generate profit using a pen testing environment. You show your client the need, you fix the need, everybody's happy. Thanks, guys, for coming on. I look forward to talking to you more. Maybe we'll have you on again to talk about, I don't know, unicorns or something. Sam and I talk about unicorns all day, right? So what we'll do is we'll see you guys later. And if anybody has any questions, they can check you guys out at vonahi.com, right?
IO. Yeah, Vonahi.
Yes, you know what? Screwed up first podcast, and now I'm doing screwing up again. So vonahi.io. And we'll have that in the comments down below, and we'll have it in our blog as well as the media post this week. So please be looking up for them. Be watching us both as we go head to head on Pitch It. It's going to be awesome. I'm gonna strike them down with the fury of awesomeness that we have. So thank you guys for coming on, and we'll see you later.